Hey guys, welcome back. This is me, Sal Mahajan, and we're here with another video on the Azure 101 series. And in this video, we're going to be discussing about Azure SQL. So, what if you would like to deploy an SQL database on Azure? So, again, normally you would need to be in your Microsoft Azure dashboard. You could go to the search bar and you can type in Azure SQL. And as you can see in services, we do have Azure SQL, so we will be clicking on that. And you can see Azure SQL does open. We will be clicking on create and just give it a second to load, and it does load up, and it does asks us a question. How do you plan to use the service? So we have three options that we can choose. We can have an SQL database, we can have an SQL managed instance, and we can have an SQL virtual machine. So for this video, we would basically be going for the SQL database. Just to read the description, it's best for modern cloud applications, hyperscale and serverless options are available. So again, we have three options over here. That is in the resource type. We can go with the single database, we can go with an elastic pool, and we can go with the database server. We will be going with a single database, so we would select single database and we will click on create. Just give it a second. Now it opens up the configuration page where we need to provide all the details. Again, your subscription, whatsoever it is, your resource group, I would be choosing Azure 101 as that's the resource group we're using for this video series. Your database name, again, I would be choosing Azure 101 SQL, and you can see it is validated. And now you have to create a server. So as this is your first time creating it, you will not have any server, so you can click on create a new. You can give in a server name over here. So we have to create an SQL database server. So for that, again, I would go with Azure 101 SQL server. It's a D. Move that to S, SQL server, and as you can see, the specified name is available. Again, location, I would recommend to leave it in the location that is closest to you. Again, your authentication method, how would you authenticate yourself with the SQL database? So you have three methods. That is, you can use an SQL authentication, that's the inbuilt authentication, or you can use Azure Active Directory, or you could use both. For this instance, I would be going with the Azure SQL authentication. So you can give in your server login. I'll be going with my name. You can see it's validated. And you can go in with your password that you wish to provide. And here you go. I can see the passwords I provided. They do match. I can click on OK, and this would create our SQL database server. As you can see, just change this to 0. Our database name is this, and it is creating a new, as you can see, the new here, an Azure SQL 101 SQL server in the region of East US. So do you want to have an elastic pool? I do not require an elastic pool, so we can go with no. Now we have compute and storage. You can click on configure database, and this will open the configuration page. In this configuration page, you can choose what type of, would you like it to be core based or would you like a DTU based? I normally go for the DTU based, that's the basic because my workloads are less demanding. I can click this and then we can choose our max data size. You can, for this, it is 2 GB. If you do go for the standard one, you do get a max data size of 250 GB, and you can choose the amount of DTU do you want. The minimum goes with 10, and you can see the 10, the cost should be over here, but I would be going for basic with this scenario. And in the basic, we get 5 DTUs, and it's the cheapest. And we get a max data size of 2 GB. When I click on apply, you can see basic 2 TB storage, configure database. Now we have your backup storage redundancy. You can choose your backup storage redundancy according to your wish. Would you like it be locally redundant, zone redundant, or geo redundant? I'm leaving it as geo redundant as that's the default. We're going to move on to networking. Now this is one of the most important part when it comes to the database. So what basically happens is you have three choices for your connectivity method. Would you like anyone to connect to your database or no? So if you leave it as no access, no one will be able to connect to your database. If you leave it as a public endpoint, anyone will be able to connect to your database, or you can move with a private endpoint. I would suggest you go with the private endpoint, and you have your connection policy. You would like to go with the default proxy or a redirect, so you can choose the same. And of course, this can be changed. So you can like, for example, you can go with the private endpoint if you have private endpoint. So you can go with public endpoint. If we choose a public endpoint, we have a few firewall rules that we can set. So do you want to allow Azure resource and servers to access the server? You can click on yes if you want to, but this is not recommended. So we can go through another route to enable this. But just for the sake of simplicity, I will be doing yes. And would you like to add this current IP address? So assuming that you would like to connect to the database from your local system, you can add your current IP address to this. I'll be leaving that as no for now because we can do this later. And then you have your connection policies and you can choose your encrypted connection. So your minimum TLS version, you could go, I go with 1.2, so I'm sticking with 1.2. We can move on to the security page and you can choose if you want Defender or not. Defender is of course paid. I'm not going to go with Defender, it's not required. I do not require any ledger and I don't require any data. And no, yeah. Coming to additional settings, so we have you can use assuming that you want to start with a blank database, you can start with no, but if you have a bank backup or a sample that you would like to start with, you can choose the same. Then you have your database collation. So this is your basic collation that is created. Of course, if you would like to change the collation according to a few settings, you can do that here too. And then this is your maintenance window. And by default, your maintenance window is from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. Uh, we're moving on to tags again. Normally I do leave tags empty, and then we finally come to this page where we can view all our product details. So this is our estimated cost per month, and if we come down, we can view everything from our subscription to a resource group and everything else from basics, networking, security, additional settings, and tags. Once this all has been verified by you, you can go ahead and click on create. And again, as the normal process, once we do click on create, you can see it gives a pop-up and notification that submitting deployment, and we should be redirected to the deployment page soon. As you can see, we have been redirected to the deployment page. We can give it about 2 to 3 minutes for deploying, and once this is deployed, I will be back. Yeah, guys, so as you can see, deployment is complete. So we're going to click on go to resource. Once we do click on go to resource, this opens up our overview of our database. So you can view over here your status of your database, your server name, your Elastic Pool connection settings, and whatsoever. Again, this is your compute utilization. It also gives your database storage. So your max storage size of 2 GB, you have used 4 MB, and your allocated space is 16 MB. Again, you can scroll down, you can view your database features. Your transfer data encryption has been configured, and these are not configured. If you do want to, you can configure these too. Again, I will just be giving you an overview on the side panel as always. Before that, if you would like to connect to your server, this is sorry, to your database. This is your database server's name, and again, as in the username, admin username and password that we had provided in the configuration page, that would be required. So coming to the left-hand panel, again, our diagnose and solve problem is basically if we're facing any issues with the server or the instance. We can head over to diagnose and solve problems to fix it up. We have a query editor if you'd like to query our database. We have a few Power Platform functionalities that we can do, like Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate. These are our settings where we have a compute plus storage. We have a connection strings. Assuming you want to connect through your database, through your code, using maybe Java, .NET, Node, Python, or whatsoever. If you would like to replicate your data or sync with other databases, any integration provided, this is a security where you can do auditing, your disaster recovery, and much more. Then you have your intelligent performance. You have your monitoring as normal, where you can monitor your logs or metrics and any alerts provided, your automation, and finally you can monitor you can monitor your resource health, and if you have any issues, you can head to support and troubleshooting. Now, for example, if you would like to set your server firewall, you can head over here and you can click on set server firewall. This will open up your server firewall where you can see our minimum TLS version has been defined. A connection policy was default. Do you want to allow Azure resources? So we had selected yes, but you can change this to no anytime you want to, and you can also add in this is your current client IP address, and you can add in a rule name with a start IP and an end IP. So that's about it for this video. Hope you guys did like it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and do subscribe. Do comment down if there's any topics that you would like me to cover. So hope you guys did like it. See ya. Take care. Bye bye.